The current coronavirus situation throws up lots of questions with not a lot of answers. And that's true of Christians as much as for anyone else. How long will this go on for? How will we cope with the extended isolation? Why has this happened? It's good to ask questions, and we have open access to put our questions to God, who may not always answer our questions, but who will give us wisdom, perhaps leading us to ask different and better questions. As James 1:5 tells us, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. There are many questions in the Psalms. It's almost as though they're there to give us permission to put similar questions to God. So this week we are going to line up some of our questions with questions in the Psalms. We may not get all the answers, but we will grow in wisdom. So today, here's the question in Psalm 10, verse 1. Why, Lord, do you stand far off? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble? Do you ever feel that God is distant? Disappointed, perhaps, that heaven seems silent? Well, you're in good company, and we can learn from the experience of the psalmist. When God seems distant, we can take heart, because the very fact you are wanting him to be there is itself a good sign. Listen to these words of the psalmist. In his pride, the wicked man does not seek him. In all his thoughts, there is no room for God. Well, thank God that's not you. And say something quite different from what other people say. They say to themselves, God will never notice, if they think of God at all. But God sees everything, and he knows what we need. So with the psalmist, we can say, but you, God, see the trouble of the afflicted. You consider their grief and take it in hand. The second thing we can learn is to cry out to God for help. Arise, Lord. Lift up your hand, O God. Do not forget the helpless. We've got permission to speak to God like that. Furthermore, we can align ourselves with people who are in need. The victims commit themselves to you. You are the helper of the fatherless. We can cry out to God for help. And if you're anything like me, it actually helps to cry out to God, to pray out loud to God. It's one thing to know that we can pray, or even to think about the things that we want to pray for, but it's quite another thing to do it. Cry out to God. Commit yourself and other helpless people to our Heavenly Father. And the third thing we can do is declare your faith in God. Again, I would suggest you do it out loud. And we can borrow the words of the psalmist to help us do it. We can say, the Lord is King forever and ever. The nations will perish from his land. You, Lord, hear the desire of the afflicted. You encourage them and you listen to their cry, defending the fatherless and the oppressed, so that mere earthly mortals will never again strike terror. Again, James tells us, come near to God, and he will come near to you. Psalm 10 helps us to do just that. But that's enough from me. Over to you. It's time to seek God.